Please, Cal, please continue with what you were saying in regards to Brittney Griner.
No, I'm glad she's home, man. I mean, when we talk about black bodies globally, I mean, did the sister, I feel like the sister definitely made a mistake, and it's definitely a lesson to be learned about how to carry yourself and conduct yourself in foreign land and foreign countries because the rules are different. So she learned a lesson. She learned a lesson. We learned a lesson through her. There's many layers always to this particular problems, and it depends on how you approach it. Some people approach it more emotionally, some more spiritually, some more politically, some more maybe mentally and logically. Uh, and again, it's not to say that everybody is wrong or everybody is right, but it's just the different layers to it. We apparently bartered one of the Russian arms dealers, apparently, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, apparently positioned one of the Russian arms dealers to be a trade for Brittney to come back to America. Well, we're dealing with Russia. We're dealing with somebody about like Putin, who's a strategist, right? It seems like in regards to the trade, it was never going to be a fair trade anyway, right? It was never going to be really a truly fair trade. I mean, think about it. When we talk about humans, a fair trade, it's very convoluted and can be problematic. But the fact that this sister who made a mistake and she said it, she did. They position her to get home. What I get from it is that part of what I get from it is that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? Because I know they mentioned something about a not a Navy SEAL, but some military soldier who's also over there, who's been, I guess, a prisoner of war or whatnot. They did not position him to come home, and I don't know as much about that as I'd like to, but it seems like the squeaky wheel got the oil. You know what I'm saying? And that has been going on for many different years, for many different reasons, for people that we didn't even know this was going on, right? For the most part, the general public, I mean. So, it definitely it causes for definitely a discussion because now we're dealing with geopolitics. We're dealing with local things, dealing with entertainment and individual person, a black woman, whether she recognizes that as not maybe her gender, but she's a black woman. And then on top of that, geopolitics. When you talk about Russia and the dynamic of Russia and Putin and President Biden and the leadership. So it has different layers to it, but that's my take on it. Is that overall, I'm glad the sister's home, but there's definitely much to be discussed about how we carry ourselves globally, and also how that plays into the politics that allow one country to be in power or to have an upper hand, as they say politically, with resources and legislation versus another who who is trying to seem like control majority of the Eastern Bloc, and also how that positions and affects our economy and our way of life here in America. So, yeah, very, very, very key, very interesting.
That's Yeah, that is very interesting. And I
Yeah.
really don't have too much to add to what you said, Kyle. You pretty much covered all the bases. Um, I mean, just from my perspective, I heard, prior to her being held in Russia, she was, as you alluded to already, and I think this is, good information um, for people in general. She was really talking bad about America.
Mm.
I don't know if you heard that, but she was talking about how, and to some extent, I get it. How America is unjust and unjust, and the racism, and all this, and I feel her frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And then she finds herself in a situation where she's in another country and
Mm-hmm.
probably brought that same energy to that other country to some degree,
Mm.
and it kind of reveals itself real plain as to, and this is some powerful stuff that is just dawning on me as I'm saying it,
Mm.
the privileges that we have in this country, as messed up as it is,
Mm.
as filled with racism as it is, you're allowed to get away with certain freedoms
Mm-hmm.
here in the United States that you're not allowed to get away with in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And her being accustomed to the freedoms that she had in this country carried that same energy over to that other country, and now the results of it was drastically different. And now she finds herself incarcerated, hemmed up, and now, from what I understand, needed the United States to bail her out. He needed the United States to free her from that country that she was in, where she carried those same liberties that she was able to express so freely here in this country. She carried it over there, and she saw the consequences for it over there. And it became a desperate plea for her now to end up coming back to the United States, the country that she was talking so bad upon in the first place. And it brings up this whole thing. So if you felt that way about the United States, why are you so desperate to get back?
Yeah.
Why are you so desperate to come back to a place that you felt so, bad at? And it's a real eye opener, that I think people need to be aware of. But that's the take that I got on that. What did you hear about that? What were your thoughts on that? Is that the same?
I didn't hear about that.
You didn't hear about
that part of that. Her speaking out. Right. We do have access to liberties here in this country based on the laws of the Constitution, that we've talked about on previous podcasts. Watch the Constitution podcast episode, very popular episode that we have on here on Grand Rise Collective. So please like, share, subscribe. All right, definitely got to do that. Got to point that, because again, we're offering a lot of interesting dialogue and solutions to a lot of these issues. But in reference of Brittney's talk about that, no, I didn't hear about it. But that is something that even Paul Robeson talked about, back in the 1920s, 1930s. That people are like, well, if it's so bad, why don't you leave? Well, no, unfortunately, for out of force and out of violence and manipulation and discrimination, we helped build this country, right? So I have a stake to be able to complain because my ancestors helped build this. Now people say, well, now that was your ancestors, and you're not your ancestors, and this is the new day. Well, I am my ancestors, because the ancestors make up who I am, spiritually speaking. So I have a stake in this, because you know why? Because I'm still getting discriminated against. That's why. Not maybe not the same way, or maybe not as harshly as my predecessors, my previous generations, but it's still happening. So the reason you keep hearing problems, because the problems still exist. So even though she may be, if that's true, she's speaking out against it, that's something that is continuous in a lot of different countries, not just America, but France, England. There people protest on different matters of things, environmental acts, and the way the politics and the government are treating non-black citizens. So the fact that we have the liberty to talk and freedom of expression here in America, there's still our consequences. But to say that she does not have the right to speak about the ills that are going in America, and to see that makes her less American, to me, that makes her more American, because she's channeling to say, I'm not complaining to say to exalt America. I'm saying we need to improve America, or some people say we need to, get rid of America and start anew, but there definitely needs to be a change, a growth of proper morals, values, ethics that America says they follow, but typically does not, based on the way they treat certain demographic of their citizens that are of color.
I concur, completely concur with that. So it's just interesting how that whole thing played out. And she's been incarcerated in Russia for what? Has it been like over 6 months or 8 months, close to a year? What were we talking about?
It's definitely close to a year. I think at least probably about 6 months. Roughly about 6 months. Yeah.
And did you see any content in regards to a change in attitude since he's gotten back? Have you heard anything in regards?
I have not heard anything in regards to change of attitude, anything like that, because just so new. It happened a few days ago. But I mean, she had a 9-year prison sentence. A 9-year prison
In
sentence.
Russia?
In Russia, yeah. In Russia, that was 9 years. She's gonna be in that lockup 9 years, and yeah, man. I mean, that's nothing to play with, man or woman, and yeah, it's just, again, it's a lesson. It really is a lesson on how to conduct ourselves abroad, and we've all been in certain situations where, luck got us out of it, or if we would have chose one thing over this could have happened. Many people who've been in those situations where they maybe got locked up and it wasn't as bad, or maybe they missed getting locked up in America. But to have that abroad is I'm sure is a different experience. Now, of course, she'll never forget. But again, I like the fact that she owned up to it. I will give her that. She owned up to it, and she said, "Okay, look, here's what we're dealing with." And she was willing to be like, "Okay, this is what it is. Hopefully, they'll get me up out of here." I'm sure, and they did, thankfully, for her and her family. But it's just a lesson for all of us, man. Like, we have to look at it and see where she made a misstep or missteps, and say, "Okay, this is, hey, we got to be very mindful. You know, we go other places."
Because that's what I was going to ask. I think I don't think a lot of people, are aware pretty much of what happened. They
Yeah,
give me the news. Oh, she's brought back. Who is this person? So if you know, and if you don't, it's fine. Because I need
yeah.
to brush
It's
up
been
on.
9 months. It's been 9 months
It's
since
been
she's
nine
been
months.
9 months.
Got you. So how did she? I mean, if you know, again, if you know, what's her name again?
Brittney Griner.
Brittney Griner, right? So
Yeah.
for those of you who are listening, look her up uh, to get your background information as well. But Kyle, for you, the question I want to pose to you is, if you know, right? So people who may not know, and how does this relate to them? How does this relate to us as a culture? Do you know? Because I know she played on a sports team, right?
WNBA,
Basketball,
right? She played for the
WNBA.
WNBA. I think the Phoenix team. Yeah.
Phoenix team. So what? How did she get locked up in Russia in the first place anyway? What did she do? Do you know?
It was she had marijuana possession on her. Some
Okay.
paraphernalia of marijuana possession on her.
Ah,
She wasn't even carrying a lot, but in regards to Russia, you know, politics and rules, it was enough.
got you.
It was
Okay.
enough. Yeah.
So okay. So okay. Okay. That adds
Yeah.
some more definitely detailed content. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they locked her up for
Mhm.
marijuana 9 years. They're gonna
Yeah,
lock
so
up.
it says she admitted to mistakenly packing 2 vape cartridges in her rush to pack her luggage, but provided documents that showed the oil was legally prescribed by her U.S. doctor for pain management. She also never failed a drug test, but says Grenier's arrest and subsequent trial shut up the conflict in Ukraine and the cratering U.S. Russian relations that her supporters say have informed the trial. So, like I say, it happened at the wrong time. Normally, she might have been able to get away with it, even though she was Russian, and even though there are athletes now that are taking CBD and THC infused oils and products to help with their muscle recovery, their soreness, and just them being able to play consistently at a certain level of performance. So it was just bad timing. Bad timing. She got caught in that conflict where I said the Ukraine Russia thing. She got caught in that.
Mm,
You know,
got you. Got
yeah.
you.
So it's not only that, but it's the timing of the incident.
Gotcha. And then now that she's brought back into the United States, is she still going to serve time here, or she's free when she gets reach United States soil?
That I'm unsure of. I don't think so. I think I'm thinking maybe probation or something. Maybe. Um, but as far as I know, it's she's absolved. As far as I know, she's
Gotcha.
absolved. But if she does, I'm thinking probably like probationary period or something. If not,
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, brother. So there you go. The
mm-hmm.
whole paraphernalia joint in another country. You don't know what their rules are. You better pay attention. Those of us
Yes,
who
indeed.
travel, because it
Better.
gets real. And you might not
Yes, it is.
have. You might not have a Biden in office. You might have a Trump. No, I'm joking. And if you ain't donate to this campaign and you on his enemy list, sayonara, brother.
Man,
I say that in jest, but it's sad.
right.
That's the days we live in.